guys screw this up, so here are the most important rules for texting girls.
So let me tell you something you already know. Dating can be the worst. Whoa. And it's mostly the fault of the women.
Oh, come on!
But what you may not know is even when you're super rich, so rich you can afford to dump thousands of dollars on a professional matchmaker, it doesn't get any easier. So here's a post by a well-known matchmaker talking about a girlfriend of hers and what happened when another matchmaker set this woman up with a supposedly successful, handsome guy in his late 30s. Now remember, the guy is rich, but the reason he's using a matchmaker is because he likely has no confidence and no game. Likewise, the woman is almost certainly very attractive, but she wasn't attractive to actually meet one of the true top tier guys, so she's relying on a matchmaker to set her up with someone she thinks she deserves. Now there's a whole lot going on here. I'll try to cover it all. Now this woman says the guy's text game is bad, and which is certainly true. However, it's also true that almost certainly this guy had no chance. It's likely the woman here is the sort of woman who worked with a matchmaker, but deep down doesn't actually want to date a guy who needs a matchmaker to get a date. It's like the whole process gives her the ick. So then she torpedoes the dates or potential dates. It's worth noting that Blaine here explained that the matchmaker sort of really pushed the woman to agree to the date to begin with. That is an important point. This woman receiving these messages actually already agreed to the date with this guy via the matchmaker. I'm going to start off by going over his messages, then we'll dive deeper. His opening is fairly standard, how are you? It's neutral, safe, whatever. Can always do how is your evening if it's night, or say weekend if it's a Saturday or Sunday. Now he acknowledges he got the number from the matchmaker, that's good. You always want to do that when you're totally getting the number from a third party. And by the way, that is totally legit as long as you're not using it as a last resort. That is like something legitimately stopped you from getting her number when you were going to. Not that you asked and she refused. That's not good. Now he follows it up with this weird sentence about what platform she prefers. I mean, they're already texting on the phone, so this is kind of pointless. I'm going to do something all the other hot takers on the internet failed to do, and that's decipher why he's doing this. I suspect he's used to messaging on dating apps like Hinge or Bumble or whatever. A lot of times people don't like the message on those apps, so they switch over to Instagram, WhatsApp, or whatever the hell. That makes sense because people want to move the conversation away from the dating apps. But when you're already on the phone, there's really no point, so it comes off as weird and cringe. Anyway, she responds and asks how long he lived in Miami. His reply to that is remarking that it's 1 a.m. So what the heck just happened? Now the timestamp says 12:07, but it's like maybe she was actually in another time zone at the moment, whatever. And he clearly responded soon enough that it didn't add another timestamp after. My assumption is he texted in the early evening and she waited till after midnight to reply. The original timestamp is strategically cut off to make him seem more ridiculous than he was. There's a lot going on here, especially as some people focus late night replies as to be meaning a booty call. But for now, let's just focus on his reply to that. Acknowledging the time is sort of ridiculous and wasteful. It's clear he knows that too, because he added, "I like your style." Like, what style does he fucking like? It doesn't make sense. I think he was just trying to throw something out there so it didn't come across as negative. Like, I mean, if he's a night owl, he could say that, not "I like your style." Clearly, she just let him hang for hours before replying. Now, this is a mind game, shit test, power play, whatever you want to call it. By pointing it out, he loses. Though honestly, like I said, I don't think it mattered in this case, but it's worth knowing because this game will always be played. So he answered her question with what I thought was an interesting tidbit. He's a 6th generation Miami Floridian. Then went on asking, "How about you?" A second message about what you've been up to tonight. Now, some people are harping over this double text. I would say successive texts are fine as long as they are actually successive. I text like that a lot as it prevents any one message from getting too long. The fact that there is no separate timestamp seems to me it was right after the first. I do think it wasn't needed though, as he already asked her a question in that first message. I suspect he had planned to ask her what she had been up to, but then forgot when he wrote all this, so he followed it up with this second message. It creates a bit much on her end. I think the follow-up here wasn't right or needed. Like, limit yourself to one question at a time and wait for her to reply. Either way, she didn't respond to anything till the next morning and just ended things. She claimed she got the ick. Whatever. Like I said, there's a lot going on here. Obviously, the guy's text game is not strong, but it's not like insanity or creepo. I'm certain this woman was pressured into agreeing to the date by the matchmaker, but after agreeing, she didn't really want to. She has a high opinion of herself and did want to actually go through with a date with a guy who needed a matchmaker. It's like a variation of the whole, I would never join a social club that would have me as a member. She agreed and reached out to the matchmaker, but doesn't want to date any guy that needs one. It's also worth noting, if a guy is using this matchmaker, it's very likely because he has a horrible game, as these text messages demonstrate. A clear sign the woman was nuking this was she didn't mention or reference the matchmaker herself. Like, she should have acknowledged agreeing to the date or speaking to him or something. Also, like I said, that original letting it wait several hours before her first reply. She was dreading having to reply. She didn't want to. That's why it was going on. So yeah, the guy wasn't great, but the woman is the one who made the decision. And if you think about it, that is the true essence of dating and relationships. The man is the pursuer. He goes after the girl who interests him. The woman is the decider. She decides if the relationship will happen. That is the balance of the sexes, two sides of one coin. The yin yang, the scales, all of it. You have to learn to embrace that if you're going to succeed. And a big part of that is text messaging. Now, the woman who posted all this apparently claims text messages should only be for logistics of planning the date.
Who's texting for the logistics of scheduling dates?
I strongly suspect that advice just comes from her job. She works with guys who should be getting dates but aren't, obviously because they have poor game. So maybe that advice is decent for her clients, but for the general population doesn't mean anything to you. It's totally fine to text. So what would a better text conversation look like for both sides? Here's my revision, keeping somewhat their style. Hello, Steph. How are you? This is Carl Dudes. I got your number from Matchmaker. I was very happy about it too. Hey, Carl. Nice to meet you. Matchmaker said you'd be reaching out and I've been looking forward to it. How long have you lived in Miami? I just moved here a year ago. I'm actually a 6th generation Miami Floridian. Other than that small gap out of state, I've been here my whole life. In fact, I know the most authentic small Cuban restaurant you just have to try. Would Friday night work? And then the messaging goes from there. I suspect a lot of women wouldn't like this part, showing eagerness. You shouldn't expect her to say something like that. However, if there are any women out there watching this, I'd suggest adding things like this, as guys, especially the guys who aren't super confident, need that little extra insurance that she's enthusiastic for the date. The point is, it gets the job done. Also, if you saw my other video on first date success, you know the importance of taking a girl to someplace new, which this should hopefully accomplish. Anyway, it's an insane world out there, so good luck.